The Paul is dead rumour developed into the most famous conspiracy theory in rock history. The conspiracy claims that Paul McCartney of the Beatles died in a car accident in 1966 and was secretly replaced by a lookalike named Billy Shears. To spare the public from grieving the world's biggest pop star and to keep the Beatles machine going that so many were profiting from, it was covered up. Many Beatles fans still believe the conspiracy to this day, but this belief is not just held among fans. The conspiracy itself has become a cultural phenomenon that has been debated and discussed among the masses for decades. So why did so many people believe that Paul is dead? Is there compelling evidence that would lead even a skeptic to consider the possibility? And how in the world did the biggest conspiracy about the biggest band at the height of their popularity become a cultural phenomenon? Let's explore the origins of the conspiracy theory that Paul is dead, break down the facts surrounding the theory, and look at how the Beatles, and Paul in particular, responded to the conspiracy. We will dissect the hidden messages in the music and album covers that led many to believe that the Beatles were incorporating the death of Paul into their music, and then you can decide for yourself, as many viewers on this channel have already. The question is, do you believe that Paul is dead? Despite repeated denials from McCartney and the other Beatles, the rumour has persisted, reflecting the fascination with hidden meanings and theories that Paul is dead, the Beatles' rumour that simply won't die. The origins of the Paul is dead rumour trace back to a combination of coincidental events and public interpretations of those events before the rumour famously exploded in 1969. The roots of the rumour can be traced to a few key incidents. The moped accident, December 1965. The rumour partly stemmed from a real accident involving Paul McCartney in December 1965. This incident provided a basis for the later rumours that McCartney had been killed in a car crash. McCartney crashed his moped near Liverpool, resulting in a chipped tooth and a facial injury. This injury is visible as a scar above his lip, which he later grew a moustache to cover during the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band era. Besides the chipped tooth and facial scar, the injuries were minor. However, these injuries led McCartney to alter his appearance, contributing to the conspiracy theory as fans noticed slight differences in his looks. McCartney's chipped tooth and scar can be seen in the promotional videos for Paperback Writer and Rain, which were filmed in London in May 1966. Here is what McCartney had to say about it at the time. It was quite a serious accident at the time. It probably sounds daft having a serious accident on a motorised bicycle, but I came off hard and I got knocked about a bit. My head and lip were cut and I broke the tooth. I was only doing about 30 at the time, but it was dark and I hit a stone and went flying through the air. It was my fault all right. It was a nice night and I was looking at the moon. Paul McCartney interview with New Musical Express, June 1966. Then, in the Beatles anthology book in 2000, McCartney elaborated on the event further. I had an accident where I came off a moped in Wirral near Liverpool. I had a very good friend who lived in London called Tara Brown, a Guinness heir, a nice Irish guy, very sensitive bloke. I'd seen him from time to time and I enjoyed being around him. He came up to visit me in Liverpool once when I was there seeing my dad and brother. I had a couple of mopeds on hire, so we hit upon the bright idea of going to my cousin Bet's house. We were riding along on the mopeds. I was showing Tara the scenery. He was behind me, and it was an incredible full moon. It really was huge. I said something about the moon, and he said, yeah, and I suddenly had a freeze-frame image of myself at that angle to the ground when it's too late to pull back up again. I was still looking at the moon, and then I looked at the ground, and it seemed to take a few minutes to think, too bad, I'm going to smack that pavement with my face. Bang! It should be noted that Paul's friend, Guinness heir Tara Brown, was a member of swinging London's counterculture of the 1960s and had stood to inherit £1 million at age 25. On December 17, 1966, Brown was driving with his girlfriend, model Suki Potier, in his Lotus Elan through South Kensington at a very high speed. He was under the influence of alcohol and other drugs at the time. Brown failed to see a traffic light and proceeded through the junction of Redcliffe Square and Redcliffe Gardens, colliding with a parked lorry. He died of his injuries the following day. This accident happened just 1 year after Paul's accident. The Beatles press officer, Tony Barrow, recounted this in his book, John, Paul, George, Ringo and Me, that Fleet Street reporters started phoning Barrow one day early that month to confirm rumours regarding the Beatles' health and even a possible death, to which he replied that he had recently spoken with McCartney. There were reports that Beatles lookalikes were deployed as a tactic to distract from Beatlemania during their tours. Some even suggested that they had hired lookalikes to perform entire concerts. By 1966, the Beatles began pulling back from performing as many tours and being seen in public appearances and shifted to working on studio albums, such as Rubber Soul. The absence from the public eye contributed to the rumour. By early 1967, the conspiracy resurfaced in London, this time claiming that Paul McCartney had been killed in a traffic accident while driving along the M1 motorway on the 7th of January. Despite the Beatles dismissing such accusations, they soon began accompanying the notion that Paul had died. By late 1967, it was further stated that the Beatles covered up Paul's death by employing a Paul McCartney impersonator to stand in for him. Aided by Britain's Secret Service, MI5, the Beatles were given a replacement bandmate who was the spitting image of Paul. Then, in the United States, the rumours continued and evolved, with student newspapers exploring and adding to the conspiracy. On September 17, 1969, Tim Harper, an editor of the Drake Times-Delphic, the student newspaper of Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa, published an article titled, "Is Beatle Paul McCartney Dead?" The article addressed the rumour being circulated on campus that cited clues from recent Beatles albums. The conspiracy gained significant traction due to a Detroit radio DJ named Russ Gibb. The story took a major turn on October 12, 1969, when Gibb was hosting his show. During the broadcast, a caller who identified himself as Tom urged Gibb to play the Beatles' song Revolution 9 backwards. Tom claimed that hidden messages suggesting Paul McCartney's death could be heard when played in reverse. Intrigued, Gibb complied and played the track backwards on air. This action sparked immediate interest and excitement among listeners, who claimed to hear phrases like "Turn me on, dead man" when the song was reversed, which they interpreted as a clue about McCartney's supposed demise. This broadcast not only amplified the rumour significantly, but also encouraged fans and conspiracy theorists to scour other Beatles songs and album covers for more supposed clues about Paul McCartney's fate. The public's reaction was intense, with fans dissecting Beatles albums for more hidden messages and symbolic artwork. Then the radio station aired an investigative documentary, The Beatle Plot. John Small, Russ Gibb, and Dan Carlisle shared their perspective, clues, and insights from their own investigation. Here are some of the highlights from that show.
The subject is Paul McCartney. The circumstance is possible death. The program is a result of research. We will present our burden of proof, a documentary that investigates a startling string of coincidences that points to a missing Beatle, a spiritual trip, a preoccupation with death and car accidents, a series of "he's alive but nowhere to be found," and what may be, in pure fact, a hoax. Beatle music has strong, dynamic intent. There's no plain blues, no simple solos, and no natural easiness. Beatle music pushes, innovates, crushes all forms of what we consider to be normal. Jazz cats, square cults, and potheads, they all draw from Beatlemania. And so does the audience. The listener began this program emphatically a week ago. They bluntly asked, "Is Paul McCartney dead?" The time of discussion will be in the area of 1966 to the present. And based on the following, as message songs, we will glean from these songs information we think pertinent. Strawberry Fields, Penny Lane, Revolution 9, Your Blues, Glass Onion, Blue Jay Way, Fool on the Hill, I Am a Walrus, and Come Together.
Yesterday.
There are probably 3 or 4 ways that you might be able to look at the albums of the Beatles. We have chosen perhaps 2. One is the visual, one is the audio.
Yesterday.
The third, of course, is looking right into the lyrics of the Beatles. We'll do that in a moment. But to begin, let's take a visual look at yesterday and today.
Paul McCartney is sitting in a packing box. If you turn this box sideways, it sort of looks like Paul is sitting in
a casket, I guess. And I don't think you really have to draw too much of a conclusion about that. Other people in this city and our Clue members all over the state have noticed that they feel too that it's a casket. There's also the obvious omnipotent hand, which a Greek professor will talk about shortly. This time it is Ringo's open hand over McCartney.
Now, Revolver, which was another musical step, of course, for the Beatles, was their first abstract art form.
This is the first time when they start using blacks and whites against each other. This time it is inkwork. There's no fancy Beatles kind of pictures like Epstein, I'm sure, envisioned. It was the first abstract of many abstracts that you will see in Beatles albums. 3 of the Beatles look forward, and Paul is looking away. The back of Revolver has something to say, too.
The guys are wearing sunglasses. You're not quite sure of their features. As a matter of fact, their features are a little bit funkier this time. A little more grown-up.
And if you want to get into an amateur photography bag, you'll notice if you do look closely, the shadows defining Paul's form are less than the other of the Beatles. So consequently, we have 2 that are showing us more and more clues.
What has been thought of as the classic album in orchestration, Sgt. Pepper's, is a more obvious one. Now, the Beatles must have been thinking they had to give us more clues. They had to get more obvious for us. Get it out there in front. And we see some very, very interesting visual effects on the album cover.
The lyrics, of course, are going to be obvious to the listener. And the visuals were very obvious compared to the other 2 albums. The outfits this time were not the old button-down Ivy League kind of suits. It wasn't the old Beatle haircut anymore of Brian Epstein, but long hair, gaudy outfits, and more big implications that Epstein no longer had control anymore. And this was rather obvious because during this period of time he had passed away.
2 things stand out. Reaching out of the crowd behind the Beatles is a hand, extended palm down over a taller Paul McCartney.
An Indian professor commented that drum indicates the universe. The drum couldn't be any bigger than it is in Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Then we have a bust of a minister sitting on the grave itself.
The obvious Beatles grave. Many people thought that meant the Beatles' music was dead. Could it perhaps be that Paul is dead?
We see a left-handed bass guitar in flowers, spelling out Paul. The Beatles have always talked with us on their own terms. And they've Beatlized many of the things that they borrow from many cultures and many religions. And we're seeing all of this right through the album. We see the American Indian hand signs. We see the Greek hand signs. Lots of things mixed in together. Now we get into the centerfold. Obvious mustaches for the first time.
It's a possibility here in looking very closely. And if you think we're imagining, perhaps do it sometime when you have some free time. Check that scar that we've seen in other pictures. The scar is on the left-hand upper lip of McCartney. All of a sudden comes the mustaches. All of them have one.
Now we get into the macabre, as some people have said. The braid on the other 3 is quite colorful, except for Paul McCartney's. It's black trimmed.
OPD. Is that dead on arrival, as we know it here in the United States, officially pronounced dead? Or is it something like Ontario Provincial Police? It seems as though the last letter might be doctored. Nonetheless, it is an obvious clue that many people have discovered and told us. We repeat it again. It's fairly obvious. OPD.
The back of the album. 3 Beatles face forward, and one has its back to us. Paul McCartney. A taller, once again, Paul McCartney.
We had some interesting commentary about the name Billy Shears. Billy Shears is a repetitive name in many of the albums to come. The name Billy is perhaps thought to be a substitute for Paul McCartney.
The front cover shows 3 white animals, and in the foreground, arms spread in a crucifixion fashion, we find Paul.
It is our discovery that the head injury and perhaps a tooth injury is hinted at so often that the 2 white teeth from this walrus might be the face of a Paul McCartney.
Through the way to get back homeward.
Abbey Road, the newest Beatle album. Now, if Revolver represented the Beatles' most abstract form of album cover, Abbey Road's visuals gotta hit you in the eye. You've seen the cover printed everywhere, and it's fairly obvious you're seeing a parade of a white Jesus Christ, a black-coated minister,
and, of course, an obvious corpse. The corpse here being Paul McCartney. An outdated suit, no shoes, cigarette in wrong hand, and he's out of step. The obvious VW has 28F on it. Paul would have been 28 if he had lived.
Presuming he's dead, of course.
Right. A police hearse decorates the background right on Abbey Road. A close inspection of London city map shows a graveyard on the right is in actuality a parking lot. And the police station is not far from the pictures. So perhaps here again, there's the coincidence of that so-called police hearse.
Now, are all these coincidences? Are we being duped into believing this?
Apple Records seems to want us to believe it. But
At the end of the programme, the Beatles' press secretary, Derek Taylor, called in to that station to dispel the clues and theories that the programme had just covered.
Hello, Miss... Yes, Derek Taylor.
Yes, sure.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine. Now listen, I'll tell you, McCartney is alive. What do you have to do to prove it?
What would you have to do?
Well, yeah.
Sir?
To prove he's alive, apart from be alive.
Yeah, I think if we could talk to Paul, and if he could dispel it, that would be the greatest thing that could happen around this town.
Certainly be great to have a tape of Paul saying he's not dead, but it gets very grotesque then.
Yeah, no, here's what we'd like to ask.
How that answers it, you know, because then if people don't believe that the man who married Linda, or that the man who sang Maxwell's Silver Hammer, or the man who's on the photograph on the Abbey Road cover is Paul, who's going to believe that his voice on the air is Paul?
Right, because we have a spokesman from Apple, Derek, saying that they have a girl who can imitate his voice out of the American office. I'll tell you what we'd like answered, if possible, Derek, because we'd like to put this...
Can he answer me? Because he's on vacation.
I see.
Last seen in London on Monday.
Well, could you answer this?
Hell, watching Mary Hopkins.
Derek?
Ringo and their wives.
Derek? Hello? Could you answer these questions? Why the preoccupation with death and exotic symbolisms of death?
Aware of any preoccupation with death or any symbolism. These are not things that we are aware of. What is the trouble with discussing symbolism is that unless there are 2 parties to the symbolism, it's you showing me things that I don't believe. And see, I have to live with reality here. I know that he's alive because I have to do his work, I have to cope with him, I have to answer his requests and meet the realities of Paul being alive.
Right.
What I can't cope with is that he's dead, because he's not, you see. So we're dealing with supposition, and I'm having to cope with and answer hypotheses, and I cannot talk hypothetically. No matter how much symbolism there is pointing to his death, that is irrelevant since he's alive. If he's
Yes.
dead, the symbolism would have some relevance.
Right.
If he's alive, it has no relevance.
The other questions that we have, however, Derek, what about the Turn Me On Dead Man on Revolution number 9 when it's played backward? Is that just a fluke?
At the end of Revolution number 9.
At the beginning, when the gentleman comes on and says, number 9, number 9, number 9. You play that backwards and it says, turn me on, dead man. Why did they place in a record the I am a walrus? Are you familiar that walrus in the Roman mythology is death?
No, they wouldn't be either.
Okay. Are you aware?
Suppose.
I see. Are you aware that in I Am a Walrus, the song, that in the end they quote from King Lear about bury the body here, untimely death? I think that's about chapter 9.
Well, what happened there was that was a tape of a radio play. They taped British radio. They taped radio stations in England, various radio stations for that medley at the end of I Am the Walrus. And there's that portion from King Lear, but most of that sort of thing is haphazard, you know.
I see. What about on Revolution number 9?
Symbolism, which is not really in it.
I see. On Revolution number 9, there's an accident. They talk about an accident on the B track. They talk about hitting a light pole and going to a surgeon. Are you familiar with that one?
Yes, I am, but it has no meaning, it has no relevance. Why would, you know, most of these things are just done on the spur of the moment.
Well, what about the fact that on the Abbey album, why do they have everybody dressed up as they do? They're all in step except Paul, and Paul's out of step and barefooted.
Suppose I tell you he's alive. Where does that leave us?
That leaves us to the fact that I think that you are an honest man. I've never heard otherwise. But I also think that the Beatles are very clever men. I think that John particularly.
Maybe as clever as that.
You don't believe so?
As clever as you suppose.
What about the Paul spelled out on the Sgt. Pepper's album, the guitar in flowers?
That's apparently there's a left-handed guitar there.
Yes.
On the grave.
Yes, it is a grave.
A letter from a man in Indiana today who says that he's had no intelligence response from Apple because we are clearly dense in that we cannot see the symbolism. We'll live with that. We'll live with that description of dense. We cannot see the symbolism because there is none.
Mm-hmm.
Because we live far more spontaneously than anyone supposes.
Here is an audio archive at the height of the rumour when John Lennon also called into Gibbs radio station on October 26, 1969, to stop the conspiracy. Hear his take.
John Lennon, there is no doubt in your mind about the fate of Paul McCartney.
No, it's a joke, isn't it? I mean, Paul isn't dead, you know, and if he was, we would have told you, you know. We'd be the first to know.
Productive.
He's got a baby. He's recording music for Ringo's film and producing Mary Hopkins, so he's very much alive.
Well, how did the rumors affect both of you at this point?
It's a joke to us. It's just a joke.
It's so hard to believe that something like this would be going on, similar to like a James Dean thing.
I can't understand it because I can understand the James Dean kind of, he still lives crippled but won't come out, you know. I mean, there's some kind of idea you could guess, well, maybe.
Yeah.
But Paul McCartney couldn't die without the world knowing it.
Mm-hmm.
The same as he couldn't get married without the world knowing it. It's impossible. He can't go on holiday without the world knowing it. How could he die without everybody knowing it?
Paul McCartney is in England now. Is he at home or is he on a holiday or what, John?
He's not on holiday. He's working. He's recording a group called the Ivies, but doing some background music for Ringo's film, The Magic Christian. And I want to be plugging my own stuff, not Paul, so come on, let's get going.
As a matter of fact, let's talk all about this symbolism that's going down in these albums and address ourselves also to the possibility of death and what you recognize in these albums.
Well, I tell you, I'm not aware of any of them, you see. I only read about them this morning in the paper, and I can't remember them. Something about Sgt. Pepper album cover and Abbey Road album cover.
Yeah.
I don't see the connection. or how Paul could have been dead. We made Sgt. Pepper 4 years ago.
During this period, McCartney began to be more isolated from his bandmates as tensions in the band grew and John privately announced he was leaving the band. When the other band members chose Alan Klein as their manager against Paul's wishes, Paul retreated with his young family to Scotland to escape the tension. Although the Beatles' press office denied the rumour, McCartney's atypical withdrawal from public life contributed to its escalation. People involved in the heavy rotation of speculation had no idea that the withdrawal was not about their creative ideas, but about a much bigger story about to shock the world: the breakup of the Beatles. On April 10, 1970, Paul McCartney announced in a press release that he was no longer working with the Beatles. Paul told Rolling Stone, "They said, 'Look, what are you going to do about it? It's a big thing breaking in America, you're dead.' And so I said, 'Leave it, just let them say it. It'll probably be the best publicity we've ever had, and I won't have to do a thing except stay alive.' So I managed to stay alive through it." As the conspiracy spiraled into an international phenomenon, it was believed that the band coded their music and album artwork to communicate Paul's death, with fans searching for clues and messages that didn't actually exist. Paul died on November 9, 1966. He drove away from Abbey Road late the night before a stupid Bloody Tuesday, then blew his mind out in a car. He was officially pronounced dead, OPD, on Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock, which is why George points to that line on the Sgt. Pepper sleeve while Paul wears an OPD patch. Fans eagerly believed walrus is Greek for corpse on I Am the Walrus, which ends with a live BBC broadcast of a fatal scene from Shakespeare's King Lear, with Oswald groaning, "Oh, untimely death." The grave of Sgt. Pepper's album cover was Paul's grave. A hand is positioned over Paul's head on the front cover, interpreted as a death symbol. Then came the clues on the just-released Abbey Road. On the cover, Paul's barefoot, out of step with the others, holding a cigarette in his right hand. The real Paul was a lefty. The Volkswagen with the 28 IF license plate, that's how old Paul would have been if he were still alive. He was 27. The morbid symbolism of a funeral procession, with John as the heavenly figure in white, George is the gravedigger, and Ringo is the undertaker. This overanalyzing of every detail into elaborate theories showcases not only the imaginative power of fans, but also a comedic misunderstanding of artistic expression. So why did the conspiracy that Paul is dead become a cultural phenomenon? 1. Media amplification. The media's role in disseminating and discussing the rumour added legitimacy and dramatically increased its reach. 2. The Beatles' popularity and mystique. At the time, the Beatles were arguably the most famous band in the world, surrounded by intense public scrutiny and fascination. The band's innovative and sometimes cryptic music and public personas laid a fertile ground for conspiracy theories. The fans' deep emotional investment in the band made them receptive to exploring hidden meanings in the Beatles' music and artwork. 3. The era of conspiracy theories. The late 1960s were rife with political and social upheavals, and trust in institutions was eroding. This environment was conducive to conspiracy theories. The idea that a major celebrity's death could be hidden from the public fed into the broader societal skepticism of the time, making the Paul is dead rumour resonate with wider cultural and political themes. These elements combined to transform the Paul is dead rumour from a fringe theory into a widespread cultural phenomenon, illustrating how celebrity culture, media dynamics, and the socio-political climate can converge to amplify and sustain such conspiracy theories. Despite the excitement and the detailed theories, this was, of course, always dismissed by Paul as just another Beatles rumour. McCartney himself is alive and well. He is currently the last of 2 Beatles standing and has so far outlived all the sources of the rumour. Paul has kept a great sense of humour about this rumour and many others.
Nah, not really. I mean, we never believed all that stuff, it's like Paul is dead as well. There was another rumour, I didn't believe that one.
This episode stands as a testament to the power of media influence over the public at large and their readiness to believe and propagate fantastical stories. Have you ever been the source of a rumour that people believed no matter what you said? Now imagine if it was believed for more than 50 years by millions of people.